Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this podcast. This is Location Weekly, and we are recording live. It is Tuesday, May 9th. We are just talking about how we were almost through the middle of the year, and I'm obviously here with Karsten today. We are filling in for Asif as he is somewhere around the other side of the world, and it's nighttime where he is. So, how are you, Karsten? I'm so glad you're here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It is always a pleasure to be with you on the show. And also, we will talk about Met Gala later. And if I see you now, so you're one of the celebrities. Yeah, but you're right. We're almost done with the first half of the year, and that doesn't feel like so. So, how did your goals achieve so far?
It's been okay, but I feel like the older you get and the busier life is, it's just like zooming by and we need to take more time, like maybe once a month to just reflect on how we're doing personally, professionally with our families. So I always feel like I can do better, but no big complaints. Lots of learning and growth already in 2023. How about you?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I had the pleasure to be with Asif last week in Rotterdam at the Geospatial World Forum. So the LBMA had a panel there, first time on this platform since a long time. So back in the physical events business, which makes us feel kind of proud to be back on stage. That was good. Had a fabulous panel discussion about location and retail. And yeah, so geospatial is very driven by government. So we got a lot of attention from the attendees for commercial stuff, which was very interesting.
That's amazing. And thank you for covering for me last week because I was actually busy with New Fronts, which is a big, television event every year and Samsung ads. And I was honored to be on stage. It was so much fun. It was a lot of work, but you mentioned the Met Gala, and I told you earlier, I actually had to like run through all the Met Gala people the night before in my sweatpants, getting into my hotel room. And I was like, please, I hope I do not end up in any pictures with all of these beautiful, pretty people right now. If I would have had a cat suit, it would have been perfect, but we're going to get to
Right.
that later.
We come to that later, the story.
For now, I'm going to kick it off with a story because we have four stories as usual for you guys. But this is about a company called Constructor, Constructor.io, which is out of San Francisco. And they are an e-commerce product search and discovery platform company. But they've introduced what they're calling Constructor quizzes. And this is a solution that's supposed to help retailers deliver on consumers' expectations, and they're powering relevant and personalized product recommendations in real time so that shoppers obviously convert, drive more purchases, and feel like a level of satisfaction with the engagement that they're getting within that digital real estate or e-commerce site. So the tool is really focused on serving up these like brief questionnaires as shoppers are engaging on the website. It could be mobile site or mobile app. So they'll ask them questions like that you might ask an associate in the store, and then based on each person's responses, the quizzes aim to like dynamically personalize with those shoppers, make recommendations. They can see like the mapping them to individuals' wants and needs, and try to like make it a more, I guess, dedicated one-on-one experience, even though it's still digital. So they're touting some of the approaches that they mentioned in this article that quizzes can help reduce indecision. It's part of like holistic product discovery throughout the shopping experience. They're using zero-party data, which we know is always a benefit in this day and age, and that shoppers knowingly and willingly are providing that. But you know what? My thought on this was two things. One, I do like a more personalized experience. I like being able to engage with someone in real time, or even if it's a bot, just to get some answers to my questions. But something that I've noticed a trend in all of e-commerce lately is like just an overwhelming amount of pop-ups. Like getting a pop-up before I can even see the product that I came from Instagram to look at is beyond frustrating to me. And it's like you are actually interrupting and disrupting my experience here to the point where I don't want to buy your product anymore. So I feel like there's a happy medium where there has to be like engagement maybe that is started by or driven by the consumer, but perhaps does not interfere with the fact that like, hey, I'm actually trying to discover your product at this point. I'm not ready to get 10% off because I don't even know if I want this yet. Like, give me a second before you're asking for my phone number and email address and firstborn child. So I think that there's like a little bit of that friction point that I don't know. I haven't experienced this, but just in general, the pop-ups can be a little overwhelming. So I think that the industry as a whole needs to be a little more sensitive to that. The second thing that I thought of, this reminds me of, I don't know if you remember, there was a mobile ad network years ago called Curiously. And they, later on, they would go on to be acquired by Brandwatch, that acquired a lot of different products, a London-based SaaS company. But they, sometimes they were used for good things, just like open exchange and asking questions. Sometimes they were used for not so positive things, the likes of Cambridge Analytica, perhaps, capturing that data and then targeting things for political reasons. But what I like about this play is it seems to be directly tied to that retailer, to that specific interaction, and is creating and building that relationship and that personalization versus being used out in the open web, right? Or being able to use that across all of the advertisers. So I think that there's a benefit to this, to having that search and discovery, especially maybe if you're looking for something expensive, like a new television or a specific appliance, or even maybe just makeup, like what kind do I need for my skin tone or whatever it may be. So I can see a lot of good applications for this. I like the idea of bringing in that zero party data and creating that relationship between retailer and consumer. What do you think?
Yeah, just want to mention about the pop-ups, and the reason why they are doing this is mostly driven by somebody who tried to fix the problem that the retailer or the brand had before. So third-party companies jumping into that space and say, right, I can help you. Give me your data. I will fix this. And this is how that creates. But this is from the DNA side. It's the problem is deeper, and it's from the old days, maybe using old systems, things like that, and then you adapt on this on top, on top, on top. But you see good examples, especially in e-commerce, where this keep it simple and stupid thing is still alive and works very well because those people thought about it in advance when they do this. And so this is maybe always not the best sign if you see so many pop-ups. So there's a problem behind. And also you mentioned these coupon things and 10% discount. This is not the reason when you go into a product and attracted by advertisement or whatever. See, that's cool. Yeah, I want to know more about that. I'm not interested in the price, but when somebody sent me directly an offer for a discount, then it's negative in my brain. Say, right, okay, those people try to sell it now for less money than they offered before, so something's wrong. So that feels weird. That's one. And always this one-to-one relationship, can be used in a good way, but also, and you mentioned before, in a bad way. And you have to communicate on eye level, I think, with your potential client, customer, about what you're doing. And if so many things happening right in front of you, so you don't know what's going on. Maybe it's more orientated, but in general, yeah, one-to-one connections and relations are great and good to see that. And hopefully intelligent systems and artificial intelligence will help us a bit to solve this problem.
I hope so. Yes. Can I say meow on
Yeah, amazing story. So thanks, Asif, for picking that. I'm a dog and I have a small dog, so he gave me a cat story. This is amazing. Well, at the end of the day, it is nothing to laugh about because there are so many cats in the abandoned pets all over the world, that the industries tried to take care about that for various reasons. And so the cat litter company Fresh Step, so I don't buy that, but I know what it is, cat litter. So they teamed up with Dentsu and started a campaign around the Met Gala you already mentioned in the first section. So that was taking place in New York City. So all these high fashion, high class celebrities were there, and they celebrated the newest fashion. And the marketing chief of the company, Eric Jemison, showed up at the show on the red carpet dressed as a cat, and it looks a bit like the Karl Lagerfeld cat he had in the past. Anyhow, and so that was the beginning of this campaign. Fresh Step rolled out through their Instagram channel on the next morning. So the morning after the gala, where all the celebrities tried to show up. So what they had there, so they dressed cats, abandoned cats, which you can adopt in this high fashion clothes. So they're using artificial intelligence to create this picture of the cat, and then they dressed it like very fancy from the pictures from the evening. So the cool dresses you saw on the red carpet on the evening before will be now dressed into a cat, and the question is, would you adopt the cat? And so mostly all over New York and New York City, the hundreds, I don't know how many cats they had in this campaign, but very successful campaign, and just, give a bit more attention and eyeballs on this topic. I think that's great, and it's a great idea to use a very great event like the Met Gala to promote something good. And at the end of the day, they want to sell cat litter because that's their job. But teaming up in this role was great. And the picture of Eric Jemison, marketing director of Fresh Step, is beautiful, dressed like a cat.
Well, I know that Jared Leto also dressed as a cat. I did not see the picture of Eric, but I saw the one of Jared Leto, and he, in true Jared Leto style, was definitely very, I don't know, interesting, right? Like it definitely caught some attention. We also had, I think, Doja that dressed as a cat in an evening gown, but had her makeup done. So I like that they use what was happening in pop culture, one of the largest events of the season, to call attention to adopting a cat. So I think that kudos on the creativity, on the timing, and on the mission. I'm not running out to adopt a cat. I'm sorry, but I applaud the creativity and call to action here. So very good.
And you're right. It wasn't the marketing director. He already just commented this. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for that.
I was like, how many cats were there? It was like a lot.
I don't know. I hadn't been there. We had the chance, but maybe we have to figure out, maybe there was more than one cat.
Oh,
great.
Okay. Well, that was a fun story. And now let's go to something a little, maybe slightly more serious and a little bit shocking at the same time, because Google and Apple have agreed to work together. Yes, I said that. They are working together, and they have recently announced that they are going to help battle unwanted location tracking. So specifically, they're focused on thwarting this illegal activity, such as devices on like Apple AirTag or maybe even like Samsung Smart Tags. But really, that these allow users to track others in real time on an iPhone app. So the companies have submitted like a draft industry spec to the Internet Engineering Task Force, which is a standards development organization. And so the goal is to allow Bluetooth tracking devices to be compatible with, these unauthorized tracking detection and alerts across iOS and Android platforms. So they're trying to, I think, just say like, hey, we've got to keep everybody safe. We don't want anybody tracking people or products illegally. So companies such as Samsung, Tile, Chipolo, Eufy Security, and Pebblebee are supporting the draft spec, and they're also going to offer examples and instructions for manufacturers. So who's going to be interested in this? Obviously, safety and advocacy groups are going to be interested in this. And right now they're invited and encouraged to review and comment over the next few months for the companies. And then the companies are going to then partner to address the feedback and release this production implementation of the specs that are going to help with unwanted tracking alerts by the end of the year. I think a lot about this because I use a lot of these trackers. One, my husband has a personal business that he runs, and so when he's shipping or renting out these assets that are very expensive, he wants to be able to make sure he knows where they are so they're not getting lost in production. Similar to a lot of companies that do that, right? Whenever you're moving things around a hospital, you need to know exactly where they are. Or whenever you're shipping expensive things like maybe a car, we've had LoJack for years and years on how we could track these things. And then similarly, I use it for my children, right? I put it on their backpack or on their person so that whenever they're moving throughout the day, to their after school activities, I have an idea of where they are. If for some reason I cannot get in contact with them, or, God forbid, all the scary things that are happening today, and just like being able to see that. So I think that it is important to keep this functionality and this location tracking viable and available for good purposes. But I also don't want somebody else tracking my children, right? Or being able to access that information and that data. So I applaud these efforts. I think they're very important. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens over the next few months. And then, maybe early next year, we'll have something to report on what is the final standards that they have agreed to support. So any thoughts on this story?
Yeah, it's not the first time they're teaming up on this critical things. So, for example, you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago with the initiative of Overture, where they say, right, we're doing the same mapping material. We're trying to find a standard which is not based on the Google map at all. So those kind of things. So in the industry, it's a common thing to team up and get the idea to create a standard. And honestly, this is one of the reasons Samsung tracking devices are not going into market, because they're at the end of the day not working as they should. So the Samsung trackers are not working as they should because the amount of iPhones and Bluetooth on and AirTags is much more higher than the other ones. Standards are not compatible. So in terms of regulation, honestly, if this is a use case you want to work with and generate money and security, you have to team up in the end of the day. So it's how you package the story, but at the end of the day, they have to be compatible. So, sorry.
Yes, agreed.
Anyhow, yeah, so we are in the tech space of our podcast right now, and so we're following the next story. So Qualcomm and Xiaomi are teamed up to verify first time a meter level positioning at the Xiaomi 12T Pro device, powered by the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 platform in Germany. That sounds very, very complicated, but at the end of the day, we're talking about 5G. We're talking about the capabilities of positioning through networks, which allows us to position a device on a meter level. And meters, as you know, when we are outside, mostly we're using GPS signals. And GPS signals, depending on which region you are on the planet, are not very accurate. So there's various reasons for that. We have a big maneuver right now over Europe because of the war going on in the Ukraine. So our GPS systems is now sometimes between 15, 20, 30 meters, and sometimes not available because something is flying over us. So you need for critical things like driving your car, find the right position, self-driving vehicles, whatever, you need something which is working better. So, and they made it happen first time using the standard from Qualcomm and the chipset from Qualcomm, the Snapdragon, to make this happen. And if you think about that, how often you're standing in New York, for example, or in other big cities where there's tall buildings and say, right, where's my Uber? And the Uber driver is calling you, I'm on the other side of the street. Which street? That street. I have your position here, but you could position is incorrect, and it's incorrect because of using GPS, and GPS is not working very well in that was that valleys in that? No, it's not. It's just have the tall buildings, and in the middle of the tall building, it's like, yeah, it's a valley. I don't know. Whereas a German translation called Häuserschlucht, anyhow. Try to. Well, you got the idea. So having tall buildings and then just find the right position because the satellites are up there. So yes, so that's what they did, and obviously it works. Any thoughts about that?
I think this is really important. I mean, like you mentioned, the number of times that we have all ordered a car and then you have to walk to the other side of the block, or it's going to take another, 5 to 10 minutes for your Uber to get around the block because of all the one-way streets. It's really frustrating. So I think that we continue to have needs for more precise location, and beyond, I would say, just, simply ordering a car service. There's also the fact that whenever it comes to specific, like in lane, that level of detail and that level of location is really important when we're talking about self-driving vehicles and moving things throughout the world. Like, we need to have, an inch makes a big difference. So we have to have all of these, I would say, like, we have to continue to improve the accuracy of location and the types of technologies that we use in order to achieve that.
It's always, I think, a mixture between different technologies and use cases. So for example, if we're talking about self-driving vehicles and it's snowy and foggy outside, you could not use cameras. So visual positioning systems, as we do it with Arrive, for example, in indoor navigation, are not going to work if you have a snowfall. So, and even satellite connection could be break up. You know that from your television, because if it's a storm or the thunderstorm over you and lightnings and things like that, so you need maybe something else to protect your self-driving car or vehicle. So yeah, it's very important, but I think there's no right or wrong. It's a mixture between different technical solutions. Yep.
Awesome. Well, we've covered it. That's our show for today. That's our 4 stories. We thank all of you for listening. Steve should be back next week. I don't know, Carson will be back soon enough, I am sure, because you are
Well, the good thing is I'm flying to North America on the 16th, so next Tuesday, and I will be there for over 4 weeks, and I hope we see us all in person. I'll see if I know. Maybe I can make it to New York too. We'll see.
Great. Well, if you have story ideas or feedback, please reach out to us. We're available on social media, LinkedIn. Drop us a comment, a like, and let us know what else you want to hear about. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.